Every single day, from the second you wake up, you're making choices. But have you ever really stopped to think about how you make them? I mean, what's the science behind what you want? Well, believe it or not, there is one, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today. We're constantly faced with these kinds of trade-offs, right? More coffee or just 10 more minutes of sleep? Spend our money on pizza night or a movie rental? It feels like it's all just gut instinct, but economics actually gives us this incredible framework for turning these feelings into a logical, predictable process. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to lay down the 4 basic rules that guide our choices. Then we'll learn how to actually visualize your happiness on a map. After that, we'll look at a couple of extreme examples to make it all click. Put a number on satisfaction, and finally, bring it all home to find your personal sweet spot. Okay, let's dive right in. Before we can build a model of anything, we've got to have some ground rules. So let's start with what economists even mean when they talk about preferences. It sounds complicated, but it's not. A preference is really just your personal ranking system. You've got different combinations of things you could have. Economists call these baskets. And you just need a way to order them from best to worst based on how much happiness or utility they give you. Simple as that. Now, for any of this to work, our preferences need to follow 4 pretty common sense rules. First, completeness. You're never totally stumped. You can always look at 2 options and decide which you like more, or if you like them equally. Second, transitivity. Your logic holds up. If you like apples more than bananas and bananas more than cherries, you've got to like apples more than cherries. No weird loops. Third, monotonicity. This one's easy. More is better. And finally, convexity. This just means we tend to like variety. You'd probably be happier with 1 pizza and 1 movie than with 2 pizzas and no movie. Okay, so we have the rules. Now let's turn those rules into something we can actually see. We are literally going to draw a map of your personal happiness. And the main feature on this map is something called an indifference curve. Just think of it as a line that connects all the different combinations of 2 things, say pizza and movies, that would make you equally happy. Any spot on that line is just as good as any other spot. You are quite literally indifferent between them. And the shape of these curves tells a story. First, they always slope down. That's because of our more is better rule. If I give you more pizza, I have to take away some movies to keep you at the same level of happiness. And they're bowed inward because we like balance. It shows that if you have a ton of pizza, but only 1 movie, you'd be willing to give up a lot of pizza slices just to get 1 more movie. Now, here is a super important non-negotiable rule. These curves can never cross, ever. Why? Because it would break our logic. If they crossed, it would mean 1 point in space gives you 2 different levels of happiness at the same time, which is impossible. It would violate that transitivity rule we talked about, and the whole system would fall apart. All right, we've got the basics of the map down. Now, to really get a feel for how this works, let's look at 2 opposite, kind of extreme types of preferences. So on one end of the spectrum, you have perfect substitutes. Think of 2 different brands of apple juice. You don't really care which one you get, you're happy to trade them 1 for 1. On the total opposite end are perfect complements. The classic example is left shoes and right shoes. You need them together. Having 10 left shoes but only 1 right shoe doesn't really help you. And here's what that looks like on our map. For perfect substitutes, the indifference curves are just straight parallel lines. This shows that your willingness to trade one for the other, what economists call the marginal rate of substitution, is always the same. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of one or a little of the other, you'll always trade them at the exact same rate. And for perfect complements, you get these cool L-shaped curves. Look at that chart. If you're at the corner with 1 left shoe and 1 right shoe, giving you a second right shoe doesn't move you to a higher happiness curve. You're stuck. To get happier, you need more of both goods, which is what moves you up to the next L. So we can draw our preferences, which is cool, but can we actually assign a score to our happiness? Can we put a number on it? You bet we can. And we do it with something called a utility function. A utility function is really just a simple formula that takes any basket of goods and spits out a number. A higher number means more happiness. That's all it is. It's basically a way to put a label on each of our indifference curves so we know that the curve labeled 10 is better than the curve labeled 5. So let's make this real. Imagine you have a basket with 1 unit of good X and 4 of good Y. Well, if you see them as substitutes according to this particular formula, your utility score is 19. But if you see them as complements, your score is only 1 because you're held back by the 1 unit of X. For a more standard in-between preference, like this Cobb-Douglas function, you get a score of 2.
See? Same basket, but different preferences lead to totally different utility scores.
Okay, we've mapped out what we want. We know how to score it. Now for the final crucial piece of the puzzle. Let's combine all of that with what we can actually afford. This is where we find the sweet spot, the optimal choice. At the end of the day, the goal for all of us as consumers is pretty straightforward. We want to be as happy as possible without going broke. In the language of our map, that means getting to the highest, most awesome indifference curve you can possibly reach, given the budget you have to work with. And here it is, the big reveal, your perfect spot, your optimal choice, is at the one single point where your indifference curve just gently touches your budget line. This point is so special because it's where your personal willingness to trade, your happiness curve, perfectly matches the market's rate of trade, which is just the prices of the goods. It's where what you want to do perfectly aligns with what you can do. And this isn't just some abstract idea. We can actually calculate it. Look at this example. For a person with this specific utility function, a €90 budget, and these prices for goods X and Y, the math points to one single perfect answer. The best choice they can possibly make is to buy exactly 3 units of X and 6 units of Y. That's their optimal spot. So there you have it. We started with a few simple rules about how we make choices, and we built them into this powerful model that can map our desires and find the single best option for any budget. The framework is all there. So now the real question is, what optimal choice are you going to make today?